Okay, we're going to kick off again, guys. Just talking to Warwick when we picked him up from the airport. Are we good to go? It was only about a week or so ago that he'd heard the term social license or social license to operate to do with equestrianism. I just wondered, could we have a show of hands if you've heard of that phrase to do with horses? So probably about the same proportion, I would say, as last night. And for those of you, just another show of hands, for those of you that have heard of it, how many of you would feel happy explaining that term to somebody? Okay. Oh, someone at the front. Do you want to have a go?
I thought you just meant, The answer is yes.
Go for it.
What is it?
It's kind of the collective approval that an activity or something has in society.
Yeah, very good, very good. So it's basically the public's approval of what we do with horses, whether it be riding, competing, or just plain keeping them as field ornaments. So basically what I wanted to ask the panel was, given the extraordinary scenes that we've seen this year of videos, we need to be looking at protecting our social license to operate. And I wanted to ask them what they feel we need to do to see a way forward. Ben.
Okay, where do we start with this? So, do you know how you guys didn't want to talk about this? No, I think it's not a bad thing that we've seen different videos from different disciplines. And I'm going to say that again. We've seen different videos from different disciplines. It's not just dressage. We've seen it in jumping, I've seen carriage driving, we've seen all sorts. And I think it's a good thing that we're trying to make people aware that there is malpractice happening and that it should be stopped. I think that's absolutely true. What I think we need to be careful of is not taking on the same personality traits of those we disapprove of when dealing with those who are in the wrong. So, when we think of people who have made great change in the world, look at Gandhi. He didn't fight against the oppression with the same way that they were oppressed. You can't fight hate with hate, it just makes more hate. And one thing that worries me is I think how you treat anybody is how you will treat everybody when you let your guard down. And some of the ways that I see people on social media treat one another makes me worry how they would treat animals when left alone. Because it's not a far cry from one, a bully is a bully, and someone that takes great pleasure in bullying up another person, I really don't see how that wouldn't leak into other aspects of their lives, and I don't even think it's deliberate. And I think we just need to be so careful with that, yes, do not ignore things that are wrong. I want to see change, but I'm much more concerned about the conversation about what we do next than what has happened. Because that's a conversation we don't seem to hear or have very often. It's always revisiting the same issues, revisiting the same thing, trying to, hang, draw, and quarter the same people. And I don't think that helps, and I also don't think that's the best way to help a person change. Nobody that's made me feel small, insignificant, stupid, and vile has made me change my life. People that have been compassionate, caring, and gentle with me have. And I think that's a very important thing. I'd also like to say, and I know this could be a bit controversial, but I don't think it should be. I think we have to be careful not to live in an echo chamber of apocalyptic negativity. Because if I ask any of you what the issue is, you'd all say dressage. I went to America and started this conversation. They couldn't believe that anybody has a problem with dressage. It's eventing. If you go to Australia, it's jump racing. And so I think we need to be careful that we don't make it seem worse than it is to the general public, because the general public get exposed to it by, fanning out all those flames and stuff. And please never misconstrue that saying I don't want to see change. I want to see so much change. but it's how we go about it. And also, another thing is, I think it's important. I don't think we're in that much trouble with the social licensing thing. I've spent the last 3 days on the phone to Britain's Got Talent, having them beg me to go on with the horses. I'm not going on. It doesn't interest me. It really doesn't.
He will, however, be taking his top off soon. Don't worry, guys.
But do you think that a big multinational company that makes millions, billions like that would want to put horses front and centre stage if they thought the public didn't like it? I also know that there are companies, big brands working on brand new products that don't exist in the equine market, that they're investing 200-300 million into, that are going to be launching in the next year. Do you think they'd be doing that? So I don't think we need to worry for our enjoyment of horses, but I do think we need to worry about what we do next. And that should be the conversation about how we can, maybe us as adults, maybe we're screwed. But how do we make sure that those people coming out of Pony Club, that those kids growing up at the riding clubs and the riding schools, how do we make sure that they do better than we have? And I think that should be the conversation.
So I think that we've got two things that we have to address. I think that we have social licensing, which is about your general public. And then I think we have the issue within our industry, which is what actually feeds out into the general public as well. So if we immerse ourselves in negativity and we only look for what is wrong, that is what goes out into the wider world. That is what your journalists pick up on, and it's what comes around again and again. And I really see this as an opportunity to be better and to move forward, with the emphasis on moving forward. I think that we have to be better communicators. I think we have to be willing to be transparent. I want to feel like somebody can walk onto my yard and watch me riding my horses, and I could have a discussion with them about what I was doing and why. And they still might not agree with it, because they might, but I would want to feel like I could justify it honestly and truly and communicate that in a positive way. And I think in terms of, we need to get out there the fact that our horses, let's start a little bit earlier than that. I mean, you have horses, everybody here has horses, because you love them. And when people, there are bad things that get done. I'm not disagreeing with that at all. But most of the time, it is a lack of education and understanding that lead to people making mistakes. So I think we really have to try and pull together and try and improve knowledge and understanding to help move things forward. And then in terms of, the social license to the wider world, we have to make people realize how much our horses love to do what they do. Not how much we love doing it with our horses, but what our horses enjoy. And, we had a funny conversation yesterday in the sense that I think we have to, again, it's about education. And, I am incredibly lucky with my horse Bomb, because he is the epitome of a happy athlete. He goes round that test like, guys, this is great. I'm so happy to be here. Clap louder. And, he loves it. But I have other horses that have what one would refer to as a resting bitch face. And, it's not that they are not enjoying what they're doing. They just don't go round with their ears forward all the time and looking super happy about life. But they're still focused. They're in tune. Actually, their ears are here, there, and everywhere, because they're thinking about what I'm asking them. And, we have to educate people that a horse with the ear not in the perfectly forward position is not necessarily an unhappy horse. And, I think that's... We have to show those stories. We have to tell that. That is what we have to try and put out there and help people understand. And, I think that Ben has already said it, but I'm going to say it even clearer. We need to quit with the negativity. We need to think about trying to be more positive. And, that negativity on social media and things, it does nobody any good. It doesn't do our sport any good. And I don't mean my sport in dressage, I mean equestrianism as a whole. And there's always going to be people that do it, but we have to try and rise above it and be positive and look at what we're going to improve through education, through training, to help our horses and help people understand what we're trying to do.
Yeah, I'd say step one is don't be part of the problem. So don't be one of the people who could be videoed doing something inappropriate, and I'm pretty sure no one here's in that case. But the other thing, and I want to reiterate what these guys said, is how social media works, whatever, and actually how the world works, is whatever you put energy into grows. And if you put energy into negativity on the internet, the people who don't know anything about horses will just see, those things will rise to the top. And I like to, the saying, think globally but act locally. I have people who say, "Oh, there's a person in my yard and they're doing, they're doing it all wrong with their horse. They should be doing it differently. How do I tell them?" I say, you don't tell them. You do what you do with your horse, and you do it so well that they're leaning over the fence going, "Hey, can I ask you a question? How did you get your horse to do that?" Lead by example. Like Ben said, he's never learnt anything from anybody who's trying to belittle him. You've got one chance to open lines of communication with other people, and being negative is not the way to do it. But really think about social media. Is your bitching and moaning about a post that comes up on social media, is your negativity actually going to do any good, or is it all it's going to do is just put that thing to the top of the page so it's seen more? So if I think it's a quote by one of the Stoics, but it's about, don't put any energy into anything you have no control over. And I would say, stick to what you have control over, and spread that magic around everywhere, and just lead by example.
And also remember that you learn sometimes by making mistakes, and that is such an important part of it. And, I struggle, and I talk about this quite a bit, because I don't do a huge amount on social media. What I do tends to be lighthearted and stupid, and my horse writes a very extensive blog, which I read the day he started writing, because it takes me a lot of time to translate what he says. But, I get frustrated because I don't feel like I can be as honest as I want to be, because I am a professional, and it is deemed by many people that I should be perfect at all times. And I would really love to be able to show that sometimes it isn't perfect, and sometimes I do a change that is late behind. Not a bit late behind. This is a story from yesterday. Or, that I'm having to work my horse a little bit too round over its back. The poll is not the highest point. The nose is not perfectly forward. But if I ride the horse with its poll up and its nose out, it's hollow through its back and not where I want it to be. So I put it a little bit more round to help get the horse to engage its core and work better through its body. It's not in roll cur. It might be a little bit behind the vertical, etc. But, that is... I can't do that, because if I do that, I get absolutely pulled to bits. And I find it sad and frustrating, because I think with the, young people and anybody in our sport, when you see only perfection, you have standards that are too high. You need to see that all of us have problems and all of us have struggles. And, I would really like a world where we felt like we could do that a little bit more. And, me making a mistake could help somebody else to not make that mistake, or to realize that it's not a big deal if you make that mistake, because mistakes are how you learn. So, it is... I just think that's such an important part, and it's important to understand that you make mistakes and it's okay, and your horse makes mistakes and it's okay. You work through it and you improve them and you make it better. But without mistakes, you don't learn.
I'd just like to sort of tag on to the end of that as well. We talk about that idea of making mistakes. You train a horse, the horse can make mistakes, and so can you. Do you know? It can happen both ways. And good horse training is making a plan, trying it. It fails miserably. So you go back to the drawing board, you make a new plan, and you try again. And every time you try and it doesn't work out the way you want it to, you sort of adapt. You see what's gone on in front of you. Do you know, the same way you would if you were running a business. Do you know, trying to sell something, you do an advertising campaign, it works or it doesn't, and you tweak accordingly. We've tried crucifying riders and going angry, and it's not blummin' worked. Think about that. We've done anger and outrage, and it's changed nothing, has it? So we need to think of something better. We need to use the minds that we use to train our horses to try and change these, whether it's the organisations, whether it's the rules, whether it's the general feeling. And I think people talk about this trickle-down effect. I think we all know that doesn't blummin' work. But it can grow up as well. If all of us at the lowest level from absolute grassroots up try to be as impeccable as possible and call ourselves out and try to improve, then anybody who's not on the ship's going to look ridiculous. So we can change this world, but we have to change how we're trying to do it, because we've gone one way and we've all seen how it's turned out and nothing's really changed and it's not really worked. So we need to adapt and try something else. And I think that's the only way we're going to grow and move forward.
Okay, we're going to go on to, we're not going to have time for all of the questions from the audience, but thank you everyone that has. This one's from Abby. What is the biggest lesson a horse has taught you, and how has it shaped the way you train? Warwick, do you want to start with that one?
Yeah, I can start with that one, yeah. The biggest lesson a horse has taught me is how to listen. The power of listening versus telling. And what was the rest of the question? Sorry.
And how has it shaped the way you train?
It's I can't go into the whole story here, but I had a horse about 8 years ago who, what I was trying to achieve with him, I couldn't achieve the way I was doing it. And at the time, I'm achieving changes with every horse I come in contact with all around the world, and I'm helping people do it, and I know what the hell I'm talking about. But when I couldn't change, like Ben said, you don't keep doing the same thing over and over. I actually stepped back and what is really, really going on here, and how else can I look at things? And it really led me down the path of more in relationship first rather than training behaviours. And yes, it was the power of listening, and for me it actually helped me listen with people too. I used to be quite good at talking at people, and I think all the skills I might possess with people now, actually I learnt them from horses in the first place, and this one was certainly the case.
I'm going to go with, I don't have one particular horse, but more a sequence of events involving different horses. I had an incredibly talented horse called Corincio, who, so he's 17 now. I started riding him when he was 3. And he was super talented. He won Young Horse Championships. He was 7th in the World Young Horse Championships for 5-year-olds. He won numerous nationals up to small tall level, so Prix St George into 1. And we struggled with the transition to Grand Prix. And he was quite a big horse. He was super scopy and loose. He found going big and forward and sideways very, very easy. But he found the compression a little bit more difficult. So the piaffe and passage work wasn't so natural for him. And because of his success throughout his career, we were selected for the World Class program, which is like the lottery-funded program. which is understandably like quite results orientated, because they have to justify why they are giving riders money. So, you know, they have to be able to see, look at these riders' marks, and, you know, the general trend has to be an upward trend. And it is quite a lot of pressure, especially when I felt like I was sat on a horse that had the potential to be a top class horse. But he really struggled with the Grand Prix work, and sometimes we would go, he had some fantastic results. He went to the Nations Cup at Hickstead and was second, I think, actually, but with good competition in the special with a super mark. And then, you know, we'd go out 2 weeks later and go from 74% the week before to 64% the week after, because we basically didn't piaffe. And I really struggled with this mentally. So, you know, with the pressure that I put on myself because of the world-class thing, with the pressure that I put on myself because I felt like the horse was really good and I was not doing a good enough job, and I didn't have the answers to fix it. And I had a lot of help from brilliant people and great support. But in the end, I was like, okay, this just isn't working. And the last competition that I did on him was actually the Nationals. And we'd done 2 quite good piaffes, and I turned onto the final centre line in 74%, which would have won the national championships. And then we came into Passage, and then he was like, we're not doing piaffe here. So we got a 1 for our piaffe, and I think maybe even a 0 for our piaffe and a 1 for our transitions, and went from 74 to 68 very quickly, and the top of the leaderboard to quite far down the leaderboard. But you know what? By that point, I was like, it's okay. I really feel like I've done what I could with this horse. So the plan was actually to sort of just drop him down, find a young rider or something to lease him and, you know, let him do what he found really easy. Unfortunately, he actually injured himself, as they do. But what then came after that was I had another Grand Prix horse that I was riding, and I had really lost my confidence with that piaffe work. And I was not doing a good enough job with the next horse, because I was a little bit like, oh, this piaffe might go wrong, this piaffe might go wrong. And funnily enough, quite often, the piaffe went wrong. So, you know, this was then becoming like my problem. And I remember really clearly taking a wagon full of horses to have lessons with Carl from, you know, sort of, I think maybe I had my 7-year-old there, and then an older one and the Grand Prix mare. And he was like, you're really good at teaching horses to piaffe. And I was like, I'm not, can't do it. And I did really I lost my way with it a little bit. And then I actually sold the second Grand Prix horse. And, you know, don't get me wrong, it wasn't a disaster, but she was super talented, and I didn't feel she was super talented for that work. And I didn't feel I was getting the best out of her. And then it took Bomb, who I produced from, you know, just batch 3-year-old all the way through. And he made me realise that I could do it, because he was just a teeny bit more helpful than some of the others. And bit by bit, we built each other's confidence back up. And now I realise that I am actually quite good at teaching a horse to piaffe, but I needed to be not so good, lose my confidence, have the horse that built me back up to realise that I could do it. So, and you know, now I have, again, it's a 7-year-old mare, and she has a super talent for it, but she's quite feisty. She's a redhead. And she can be a little bit feisty. But because of the confidence that Bomb has given me, I am now more confident with that horse. And I know if I'd had her after Corinthio, it would have been a problem. But now, having her after Bomb, I'm like, can do this, it's cool. I have a few more tools in my toolkit, I have a few more things to help me out, and that horse is getting more and more confident. So then you get a virtuous circle instead of a vicious circle. And I think, you know, that's been such an important lesson for me to learn, and a process for me to go through. And I think that, you know, that's definitely helped me to help other people through a similar kind of thing. And, you know, I'm incredibly lucky that I've had the horses that have helped me go on that journey. And that, you know, I think we're all lucky because we're riding and working with a lot of horses. When you're working with just one horse at a time and you only have that horse, when things go a little bit wrong, it's like whoosh. Whereas I can have one horse that's going through a little bit of a static phase, or it's a little bit tricky, but then I have another one that's going brilliant. And, you know, that can help you actually work through things with the more difficult one. Whereas I think when you've only got one, that journey can actually be a lot tougher.
I have to wind you up. I really loved that halfway through. And then I was just with Carl Hester, and he said I was really good at teaching PF. Just, you know, because going to the Olympics isn't enough.
And like 10 minutes before that, Ben was over there saying something, and Becky turned to me and she goes, "He's talking about being on Britain's Got Talented again."
Just take your top off and be shut up with it, okay?
Look, we'll pull the Love Island story out if we get stuck, all right?
Excellent.
So, no, for me, like, what have I learnt the most from horses? So, like I said, right at the beginning, we talked about that idea that I was too, like, come on! Like, so that's such a big thing for me. So one of the first thing is, just because you've decided, so you've come here tonight, maybe you've always done natural horsemanship, you've never dipped your toe into competitive dressage, and Becky's inspired you to. Maybe you've done pure dressage or something else, you've never done horsemanship, and me and Warwick have inspired you to jump into doing what we're doing.
I'm going to give it a bash.
Yeah.
One horse on each leg.
Absolutely.
I mean, one horse on each leg, one leg on each horse.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Double 1 times. It would be sick.
Yeah, okay.
Anyway, we'll play. Your poor horse has no idea it's had a career change overnight. So be gentle during the blooming transition. If you've got a job at a bakery and you arrive the next day and it's a bank, you'd be like, what on earth, what kind of matrix world am I living in? So ease your horse into a new thing more gradually. How do I know this? Because I'm the moron. I've made all the mistakes, so you don't have to. So I've made those stupid things where I've taken a pony that I've always show jumped and then gone, today we'll play loose, and the pony's gone, I don't understand. I'm going to eat grass or do the wall of death because you're confusing me. So it's, you know, ease into a new style of work with your horse, not only for their mental health, but also for their physical, you know, their physical well-being and all of that. The other thing that I would say is, don't get destination addiction. Okay, so what's destination addiction? If you're riding your horse on a hack, out on a trail ride, and then you turn for home, and it starts to pick up that walk. Oh yes, Bob the Cob, who has scraped his shoes off, he's worn them down. They're only going to do 4 weeks now because of how much he's dragged his feet round this road. But when he turns to home, he's bloody Seabiscuit. That is destination addiction. We laugh, but it's not actually fun, is it? Because by that point in the hack, we need a wee. We're now getting ruggled around, and you're like, oh, I don't want this. I don't want to have to half-halt all the way home. Why is the last part of my hack always the worst part of the blooming ride? So we don't enjoy destination addiction when it's thrust onto us. Equally, we shouldn't do that to our horses. If you don't actually enjoy the process of training your horse, I'm not sure it's for you. Don't own one. Save your money, save the money on livery, and go for schoolmaster lessons on a weekend where you can jump on one, push buttons, get nice videos for Instagram and carry on. Because if you don't actually like that process of doing it, what are you here for? Like, people would refer to me as a performer. I don't know the numbers, and I might try and tally this up next year, but the amount of hours I spend actually in front of an audience with horses performing is about 0.5% of the time I spend in the arena training the blooming things.
Come on, you spend your whole life performing.
I wish I did. I'd have a posh wagon like yours if I did that. But, so, I've got a couple of little sayings that can help you with this when you're training your horses. Give it an hour, and it will take 10 minutes. Give it 10 minutes, and it'll take an hour. The second one, slow is smooth, and smooth is fast. Give your horse the chance to learn. And this doesn't just mean on the progress to each stepping stone, each progression. I mean as you add your cues. If you're going to start horsemanship after tonight and your horse has never done any groundwork, and we're going to start with something really simple like a hind quarter yield, meaning that I'm going to point at my horse's bum and I want my horse to step its bum around away from me. What we don't want to do is go straight to raising the stick or the whip or the rope or whatever we're going to use and going, move. Oh, it didn't work. Do you know? Oh, point. No, nothing happened. Knock on the door. Like, wait. Watch. Your horse, what is movement? Is movement limited to the legs and hooves? When I first start asking a horse to move on the floor doing groundwork, I'm looking to be able to lift the whip and have the ear that's on the same side as the whip connect with the whip. Then once we get, so when I lift that whip, the ear flicks to the whip, I want to be able to move the whip and see if the ear stays with it. Then I want to try and rest that tail, that tiny tail of the whip on the belly of the horse and get that, there's probably a real name, but I call it a fly wobble. Do you know what I mean? Where they're like, oh, and stopping and backing off every time we get those reactions, because you're showing that horse every time you move, I back off. Every time you move or give a reaction, I'll adapt my training. And if we can start training slow like that, then as we move up through the levels to more complex maneuvers, your horse knows that you will adapt and change to how you work with them as you train. And so they have more confidence to offer you more energy, to put themselves in more compromising positions that are going to be more difficult for them. Do you know, when I say what's a compromising position, do you know, most of us would struggle to sit in a squat. So if you're going to ask a horse to start doing a piaffe, that's a lot, do you know? And it's gaining that trust from the horse that it knows that you're going to adapt your signals as the horse progresses. That's going to allow it to have the confidence to offer you those movements.
So one thing that I want to come back to there is I was lucky enough to do a podcast with Ben a couple of weeks ago. And one thing that you said that really... Oh, actually, I don't know that if it was on the one that I spoke to you, but maybe one of the ones that I was listening to. One of the things that you said was that with Liberty, one of the first things that you train is the mental state of you as a person, and that you know it's so important, the mental state that you are in when you're trying to ask something. And that, you know, one of your things is if you look at your whip hand and your knuckles are white because you're like, "Urgh," then you have to step away and leave it and go. And I think that I found that really fascinating, because I think it's something that I think we don't talk about early enough quite often in our training, which is your mental state and its impact on the horse. And I think, you know, that comes a little bit round to what I was saying with when I lost my confidence. You know, I was still putting on aids to do a piaffe, but my brain was not in the right place to do it. And I think that is, you know, you have to really think about, you can only give those signals that you're talking about there and read the horse if your brain is in the right place to do so. So, you know, if you're in a pickle about something, you've had a stressful day at work, you've had an argument with your partner, you know, your head's up your backside a little bit, then go for a hack. Or go do something different, but don't try and go and do something that's going to challenge you in a negative way and not help you communicate with your horse in the best way.
Yeah, in every single way. And I have to just say, he's the reason why I think like that. You know, Warwick I'm not even sure he knows.
Did I get it second hand? Should I have had it direct from you?
Like, you should have had it direct from Warwick. Like, your journey you've been on and the way that you've opened the door for so many of us now to want to connect with horses on a mental level. I'll dare to even say on a spiritual level, to actually have real connection, not an obedient animal. And I just wanted to make sure that anybody who's here tonight knows that that's not something I've come across myself. That is from listening to and watching Warwick.
Thank you.
Can I back up before the break? I'm not brave, I'm thorough. Thorough was the word that I was trying to... I've told that story a million times and I just blanked. But yeah, I'm not brave, I'm thorough.
At what point did that word come back to you?
The one thing that I would like to say as well, just to add on when you're talking about the PF, is that whole idea of like being present is the point. And if you were in the process of asking for a PF, but your brain was thinking about the failure of the PF in the future, then brain and body are in different positions, and that's the thing. And it's about trying to not have your brain be in the future or the past, not thinking, when I tried this with the horse last time, it tried to deck me, or he was a bit spicy when I got him out the stable this morning. That means X, Y, Z is going to happen later. And that's the same, when are we scared of our horses on the floor, generally, even on their backs, is when their brain and body are in different positions. When a horse is running around and screaming and looking at its mates in the field, that's when you get knocked over. And so, that is such an important thing to work towards.
I think Abby from Hull gave us a whole host of answers to questions there. Thank you, Abby.
We probably didn't answer a question either.
I think we've got time for one more. It didn't come up yesterday, so I thought I'd mention this one. Mares or geldings, which is easier? Is it just temperament and not gender?
Careful, boys, careful.
No, well, let's go to what Ben was just talking about. And he's talking about being present.
This is Fiona, by the way.
Yeah, Fiona, thank you for your question. Basically, Ben was talking about being present right there. And I'm never dealing with a gender. I'm interacting with a behaviour. So, it's not like one's harder or you're just dealing with the behaviour in front of you, not. It's hard, they're hard because they're a mare, or they're hard for a gelding, or whatever, because you're not actually interacting with that. You're interacting with what's going on right now. And I think if you can just stay present that way and be aware of what's possible now and what's not, is this horse capable of the thing I'm asking right now? It doesn't really matter with the gender. And let's say a mare is in heat and they're acting differently than they were the day before. If you're interacting with them in the way they are acting today, then you don't butt heads, because you're present and in the moment. And so you're not really, you're not, like Ben said, your mind and your body are in two different places at two different times. That's why I think I don't think the gender thing is a big deal. People say, do you treat stallions different than geldings, or do you treat cobs different than whatever? It's like, no, I'm just working with the horse that's in front of me, and if they're an anxious horse, I deal with them like an anxious horse. If they're a shutdown horse, I deal with them like a shutdown horse. If they're, you're just dealing with basically the emotional state of the horse in front of you, no matter what gender they are.
I think I kind of agree with that, really. I think, stallions and mares, you do just have to remember that there's more hormones involved. But it comes down to the same thing. You still have to deal with the horse that you have. But, they are... we all know what hormones can do. So, you just have to bear that in mind a little bit. But I think I have mares that I absolutely love riding. It's about each horse as an individual. That is the most important thing.
We all know what hormones can do. You've asked Ben to take his shirt off twice.
I know. And it's going to be a third time. The thing is that I've just heard so much about it. And I'm like, Britain's Got Talent, Love Island. Come on.
Have you only heard about it? Or you've seen photographic evidence?
I haven't seen photograph. Basically, this actually comes from the podcast that I did with him, where Jenny, who organises the podcast, is just like, if we get to 10,000 followers, Ben will take his shirt off. If we get to 20,000 followers, Ben will take his shirt off. So I'm just picking up the mantra, really.
#help Ben, #me too.
Did you see his slut drop? Come on.
If you've had a long day and you need cheering up, I encourage you to go to my Facebook and see my rendition of Tom Holland's Umbrella, with me in my fishnets with Malik.
Seriously?
One thing I would say...
I've just seen a picture of Ben with his top off. had.
Well,
It was in the program from the Horsemanship
I
Showcase
know,
last
they keep
weekend.
using that same picture. Do you know what's actually even funnier?
And what's funny is 57-year-old fat me ended up next to him. Like, they're side by side. I sent it to my wife. That's why I don't have a picture of Ben with his top off on my phone for any other reason than the fact I took a picture of this program and sent it to my wife to go, look, they've put Ben with his shirt off next to me.
Do you know that's actually how I met Steers and Dan James? It's because they went through my Instagram and on their podcast started ripping the absolute toss out of me for the pictures, and that's how we became friends. I'm going to finish the mares, geldings, stallions thing with a true comment, but a bit of a funny one as well. If you have aspirations to travel internationally, geldings, because it's much bloody simpler. If it can breed, it's spending a lot more time in quarantine. So one of the reasons when people say to me, you've got a lot of geldings, it's like, yeah, I'd rather spend 3 days in quarantine than 3 weeks. Actually, and what I have to point out, if anybody's seen that picture from the showcase thing, I'm wearing this necklace, right? This like tribal necklace thing. And the reason I'm wearing it is it's hilarious because a friend made me it out of her Shetland's hoof trimmings. So it's a Shetland hoof trimming medallion that gives me the power of a Shetland. Yeah.
So now you know what Ben's cologne it smells like.
Yeah.
Like smelly feet.
Do you want to know? Oh, right. So anybody who doesn't know, my beautiful wife, George, she is in here somewhere. Where are you, George? They're over there. So George is, I say they because there's George and our baby. George is a farrier, right? Okay, maybe this is too personal. Well, we're going in now. We're in. So do you know how, like, if your partner wears a certain aftershave or perfume or whatever, you know, they've got their smell, and then, like, when you're close to them, that you sort of associate being close to them with that smell. Well, I found myself stood near our other farrier. This big burly bloke with a beard called Alistair, and I'm stood near, and I'm like, what on earth is? And I'm like, oh no. I'm like, hoof rot and hoof trimmings and burning on now make me think of, yeah, so there we go. Maybe it was too far, but we were this far in.
How are you feeling over there, George? How are you feeling?
Sorry.
Oh, dear. Oh, we'll do one more, and then we'll do our quick fire. People say never. Are there any nevers that you apply to horses?
How long have you got? You were playing on your phone before, but now you're listening, so I can't say what I was going to say. Hello, young lady, how are you? There's some golden rules with horses that I like to tell people, and one of them is never do anything, never attempt to do anything with a horse tied up that you cannot do with that horse perfectly well untied. That's a never for me. And if I can slip in the adult versions, like never do anything to an adult.
Where are we going?
I don't even have to.
I know I lowered the tone, but you don't have to follow me.
Okay.
Nevers. Are there any nevers for you around horses?
Oh, I don't know if I've got any really serious ones. If I ever, this is an actual never of mine, but it's not particular. It is serious, but it's funny. If you come into a lesson with me to have a ridden lesson, and you have a spectacular horse that you ride beautifully, and then say at the end of the clinic, Ben, you know, you've admired him so much. Would you like to ride? If you're a person that teaches, let me give you advice. Never get on that horse. Because even though you know how to help that person, I promise you, if you get on it in the last 5 minutes of the clinic, you will not know that horse and ride it as well as the person who's had it for 10 years. So that would be my first never. The other, never...
Ben, why didn't you tell me that before the Western States Horse Expo in California this year? Did you see that? Did you see when I got on the horse? You weren't there on that day. I did it. I never, you heard about it. I never do it. Haven't done it in years. No, just let me get on him for a second. Yeah, never get on a horse and in a demo.
Never. Oh, I know what I want to say, but I need to get the words right. If you're ever teaching a horse something new, just because it worked yesterday, don't assume it's going to today.
Really good one.
One of mine is more about people than horses again, and that is never blame your horse. I have a real pet hate of people coming out of of competitions and things and just being like, well, he just dropped me, he just spooked, he just did this, he just did that. I'm like, yeah, why did he do that? Because you let him. Take responsibility for the training of your horses and how they go. And don't blame yourself negatively, but be constructively critical to make it better, to fix the horse. Don't blame the horse.
Yeah, good.
When we were growing up, my granddad, my amazing grandfather, his thing would be, if we rode, me or dad, if we rode a horse or did anything with them and it went really well, that horse was brilliant. Didn't that horse go fantastically? Wasn't it amazing? If anything went wrong, me and my dad were stupid apers. What on earth are you doing? Screaming like that when you fell off it. You'll have really spooked and scared it. And it's one of those things that growing up was always just the way it was around at home. But then actually looking back on it, it's a brilliant mindset. If it goes well, the horse did it. If it goes wrong, it's your fault. And I'd follow that up with, you better pray it's your fault. Because you, as a human, can change how you think, feel, act, and respond now, today, this instant, immediately. If it actually is an issue that the horse has, whether it be physically or trauma-based or past training-based, that can take months and years to fix. So you better pray that the problem's you. If the problem's you, you are lucky.
I told you he was wise beyond his years.
It's the Shetland hoof medallion.
Okay, we're going to finish with a little quick fire round. This is what we finished with last night. So, fingers on buzzers. Your favourite subject in school?
History.
English.
Do I have to choose one? I think it was maths, actually.
Oh, Lord. Something on your bucket list?
Horseback riding safari in Africa.
I would like to go to New Zealand.
I'd really just like to perform at Olympia. Even though it's not Olympia anymore, but it plumbing is.
Snakes or tarantulas in a bush tucker trial?
Snakes.
Bush, I got to hold it or eat it?
You've got to be with it.
Tarantula. Oh. I've got a picture on my phone of me holding a tarantula.
Have you?
But you will not find a picture of me holding a snake.
I'm a celebrity, get me out of here. I don't know. Probably a snake. Oh, I don't know. No, thank you.
Bourbon or tequila?
Bourbon.
Absolutely neither. Tequila Rose.
Very, very, very good tequila. Because if you've had it, then you go, oh, my whole tequila experience has been totally wrong.
I actually have found that it doesn't matter if it's bourbon or tequila, as long as the good stuff is at the start of the night. As you progress, doesn't matter.
Is there a word you have a hard time pronouncing?
Spelling more than pronouncing. I can't spell at all.
All right.
Pronouncing? I don't know. Help. No, I don't know.
It's okay. If you had to change your first name, or if you could change your first name, what would you change it to?
I was meant to be called Lysander, but my mum and dad chickened out. So probably that.
Can I change? No, I'm going to just keep Becky.
You're good with Becky?
Yeah.
I would change it to anything that is a normal name in America, because I've lived in America for 35 years and no one in America knows you don't pronounce the second W in Warwick, okay? I've even made a YouTube video where I went to Warwick Castle and I asked the curator, what's the name, how old's this castle? And they go, it's been around since the 1100s. And how do you pronounce the name of this castle? It's Warwick Castle. I've got 30 million views on my YouTube channel. At the start of every video I say, g'day, my name is Warwick Schiller. There's, I don't know how many million people in America have all watched
Warwick.
him, but they call me Warwick, so yeah. So it would be anything other. It would be a name that Americans know easily, you know, like Bob or Donald.
Have you been to America? Colt, Gunner, Stetson, Rocker.
Any of them.
Your go-to for a quick meal? Emergencies.
I'm glad I wasn't sure where you were going with that. I'm glad you said meal. Toasted cheese sandwich.
Bowl of cereal.
Steak and eggs.
That's not quick.
It takes 10 minutes. It's quick.
If you could afford any car, what would it be?
Warwick, what's Dan's truck?
It's a Dodge. It's the same truck I have. It's a Dodge Ram 3500 Longhorn Edition.
You wouldn't fit it in this room. You need a ladder to get in it. I am a terrible driver. I am a danger. I will be on the roads tonight. I suggest you lot not be. And I want a big truck so that I can be more safe while I drive around.
Not a car
I'm
person.
not a petrol head. I really like my little Q2. It's very nice to drive. That'll do me.
Fair enough. Do you believe in love at first sight?
I was going to say with horses, yeah.
I'm going to say I've been married for 30 years, and the first time my wife saw me, she was lunging a horse at a horse show, and she said to a friend, I'm going to marry that guy. So
Oh, wow.
maybe there is.
My wife thought I was really fat for ages, so I don't think it was love at first sight. It was winter when we started training, so I had my thermals, then my breeches, then my waterproofs, then my full chaps, and then all my jackets. And I heard from her friends later on when we got together that she was like, oh, do you know what, I think he's not quite my type, but I think I'll give him a go because he is really nice. So no, I don't think it was love at first sight. I think she was giving me a pity date.
Ping pong or poker?
Oh, poker.
Yeah, poker.
Celebrity crush?
I'm going to be honest again. It's David Tennant. Yeah, all right.
I'm going with Angelina Jolie as Lara Croft.
No, hang on now. That's not the same as last night. You're just throwing different names about, and you're always like, it's too specific. We had this conversation.
Well, last night it was
like late 90s Jennifer Love Hewitt, and I was like, you should still love her when she's old and fat and wrinkly. Like, it's not okay that you just have that one thing and then ditch her. Come on now.
Peppa Pig.
I thought you'd grown as a person.
I thought so too, but now that you pointed out, I realise I haven't.
And finally, would your teenage self find you cool?
Absolutely not.
I hope so. Yeah, I hope so. He was pretty stupid, but yeah, I hope so.
That's nice.
Actually, absolutely, yeah.
Oh, that's lovely. Nice.
Before we finish, I'd actually like us all to give the biggest appreciation to the incredible Wendy.
He's such a charmer. He really is.
I've had the honour and the privilege of appearing at events all over the world, from India, America, Dubai, all over Europe.
Britain's Got Talent.
I don't... Shh, not yet. I don't think I've ever have anybody go so above and beyond to take care of us, like look after us, fill all our needs. And I think that's just a reflection of why we're here tonight, which is for the Here for Horses charity. Like every person who, you know, especially you, but every person here, you can feel that rich, generous, just love pouring out of them for the animals. Today when me and Warwick were hiding in the living room and chatting away, we saw these guys outside getting murdered by the wind and rain and doing everything they did at their own expense. You know, they didn't care how they feel. It was all about the horses. And that's why we're here tonight. We're here tonight. I hope you've enjoyed it with us. I hope you've had a laugh. Maybe you've learned something. But don't forget that we're here, all of us, because we want to help these horses in the worst conditions. You know, it's easy to think about a top competition horse that's maybe been given a hard time, but within reason, even that is a better time than most of the horses these guys are saving. Because if a horse is being trained badly, it's having one bad hour a day. Whereas most of the horses these guys are saving are going through living hell every minute of every day. And it's only with our help and support that we can save more and get them on the right track. So thank you so much for all of you for coming, and thank you, Wendy, for making this happen.
Oh, thank you.
And the whole crew of volunteers too, all you guys down there. You guys are awesome.
Spectacular.
And there are donation buckets here, here, and here.
We're going to do this again, not immediately, because we need time to recover, but hopefully you'll join us again next year sometime. Thank you so much for coming, everyone.
Thanks, guys.